Uh, Good evening, friends. By yesterday's session, we have seen the introduction to the ubiquitous computing communication and its management, and then we have seen the different types of audio network. The today's agenda for the session is the data network topic. So, how the data network is used in ubiquitous communication. Well, so in the early 1960s, the internet was based upon the several innovation. So first, it was based upon the shift from the batch computer to the time shared computer. Then second, the original intention was to directly connect each computer node to each other in the form of peer-to-peer mesh network. So it was reasoned that this would not scale up, and hence it was decided that the computer would not connect directly to each other but would be connected via intermediate nodes. They are sometimes also called as a dedicated computers, and they are typically called as interface message processor. The third, a shift from analog to digital communication. It was needed in order to avoid the signal degradation across the multi-node network. The fourth paradigm shift was a network is needed to support high capacity and a resilient network path. Fifth, a large data was split into fixed size data packets. And sixth, there was a shift from circuit switch telecommunication network model to packet switch data model. So the new packet switch data model, it allows the packets from different sources to be multiplexed along the same path to maximize the utility of expensive low capacity network link. Okay. Now there are types of data and control packets uh, which are defined in a network communication protocol. So network protocol generally define a fixed length of pieces of data to be transmitted, and they are called as data packet size. So this makes it easier to store and forward data packets when sending and receiving, and to transmit the data more reliably and efficiently. So data messages that exceeds the fixed length of the data packet size, they can be further split into a smaller related individual data packets, and these individual data packets are called as, or this process of splitting the data into a smaller individual packets is called as data segmentation. So to send and receive the content data packets, the additional control packets are used. So these packets are usually used for synchronization message or acknowledgement message. So these are typically essentially they are also a data packets. So the type of data and the control packets are defined in a network communication protocol. So each data packet is labeled with the address of an end receiver computer node in a particular network. So this enables the packet from multiple messages to be interleaved or multiplexed to use the same part of network. So each type of physical network link the protocol defines its own type of data packet and multiplexing. Okay. So you can find out this is the very widely used OSI reference models figure, which has, you can see, which has 7 layers. Application layer, which starts from the top, and when we go down, then there is a presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and finally at the bottom there is a physical layer. So this is from the sending side. So from sender, the data is always in the application layer, and from the top application layer, the data percolates to each layer of your OSI reference model. Then it goes to transport layer. So in nutshell, I will just tell you what is the role of transport layer. So basically, the use of transport layer is to establish a socket, or you can say establish a connection between the sender and receiver. The, the function of network layer is to provide the services to the transport layer. So what services it provides to the transport layer? So network layer, it assigns the address to the data packets. Okay, that is what the main function of network layer. So assigning the address to each data packets is, you can say, the main job of network layer. Then comes the data link layer, which actually performs the segmentation of data into a data packets, And the last layer, that is a physical layer, which is actually basically a cable from where the data packets will travel and they will reach to the destination. Okay. Now we'll see addressing. So before a communication can occur between the network elements such as computer, they need to be allocated network addresses. So in computer network, the network addresses are allocated to a network in a logical range, which are called as sub-network mask. So to transfer message across the network, which requires the use of special network computer, which is called as router. So network addresses consist of two parts. One is network address and other is the host computer address. So there are two types of addressing schemes defined. One is IPv4, which supports 32-bit or 2 to the power 32, you can call it as a 4.3 billion addresses. Now these addresses are insufficient for giving even one address to every living person. And that's the reason IPv6, this is the other IP addressing scheme was introduced. So IPv6, however, it supports the 128 bits, or you can say that you can have 2 to the power 128 addresses of type IPv6. So there are varying estimate to how many IPv6 addresses are available per person. It depending on the different address allocation scheme. But somewhere it is in the range of 10 to the power 24 to 10 to the power 28 addresses for each of the roughly 6.5 billion people that are on the earth. So however, the majority of addresses used today, they are still using the IPv4 addressing scheme. Now we'll see the routing and internetworking. You can see here, this is the packet switch routing. In this figure, you can see that P, it represents the processor node. PS, it represents the sender process. And PR, it represents the receiving process. R represents the router node. C is your communication link. And D is your packet data. So in this figure, you can see that the data message for an application, which is fragmented into a packet D1, D2, D3, for delivery across the distinct communication network like C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. So the data packets are travel across the different distinct communication network from C1 to C5. So data protocols can be combined to encapsulate the data corresponding to a higher level, more complex protocol, and to map the data into a simple lower level one. So you can find it here. So these are the D4, which is the processing node. This is the processing node of D4. And you can have such this D1, D2, D3, they are belong to this sending processing node PS. Okay, so D4 is the data packet which is from the different processor node, and D1, D2, D3, these are the three data packets from the same processor node. Okay, now we'll talk to the routing and the internetworking. So multiple paths may be available between the sender and receiver nodes, which are located on a different networks, which may be interlinked to form an internet. So data may be too large to be transmitted in one go and may need to be split into a multiple packets. So that can be transmitted along the multiple routes. So this process is referred as data routing. Now this is normally performed at the network level without the application being aware of this. So what router does? So router examines the address of data packets to decide whether or not that packet should be forwarded to some another particular network. So this information, which is helpful to a router to decide where to route the packet, and generally it is defined in a routing table, which is actually inside your router. So this is a software part. This is a software, you can say that a software pocket which is there in your router. So router communicates with each other using a specialized routing protocol that provides the updates to your to the router's routing table. So one of the most commonly used routing algorithm is open shortest path first. So each open shortest path first router broadcasts its routes and in turn requests the information about the routes that it cannot connect to. So generally, this dynamic routing is aimed at fixed wire infrastructure network where the sender and receiver, they are at the fixed locations. and where the routing is kept hidden. So packets are transmitted along the multiple routes which may arrive out of order or get lost and need to be retransmitted, or they need to be reassembled at the destination. Okay. So data networks are commonly designed to use a type of simple, unreliable, you can, what we call that protocol as a packet switch data network protocol. Okay. So this IP data packets are mapped into encapsulated host network layer data packets. So this packet switch data network protocol is usually considered as unreliable because data can get lost, or the related data packets, they can be received in a different order, which is compared to the transmission order. Hence, the PSDN protocol is often used in conjunction with an additional transport layer protocol, and we know that the transport layer protocol is a reliable protocol. So one of the advantage of using the transport layer protocol is to provide the reliable communication from sender to receiver. Okay. So TCP, that is the transmission control protocol, it operates between the application endpoints in the access network. So reliability is accomplished with the system of synchronization and the acknowledgement control packets. So that they are basically responsible to provide the reliable service. So when the data loss occurs in the network, the data transmission stalls while the protocol detects the loss and retransmit the missing data. So application can mask the effect of this by buffering, although this increases the message latency. Now we'll talk about the TCP and some of the TCP aligned protocol which are used in a multimedia streaming. So TCP can also adjust the transmission rate to avoid the overwhelming receiver or the network in between the sender and the receiver. Now TCP can only be used to connect a single sender and receiver, and that's the major drawback of TCP. If we want to use the multicast communication, then we need to use the different transport protocol, and this transport protocol which supports the multicast communication is called as UDP, that is user datagram protocol. So unlike TCP, UDP is far simpler to implement. It can be used for multicast. It does not need to synchronize itself at the start or at the end of the session, and it does not need a timeout or retransmission of the frames, or it does it does not use any kind of flow control or congestion control. So multimedia streaming, it refers to the data content that is continuously received by and normally displayed to the end user as it is being delivered by the provider. So unreliable transport protocols such as UDP, it can be used to send the media stream, right? So this is simple and efficient, but the packets can be lost or corrupted in transmission. So depending on the protocol and the extent of the loss, the receivers may be able to recover the data with the error correction technique, which may interpolate over the missing data or may just suffer a dropout. So to overcome this drawback, the real-time streaming protocol, the real-time transport protocol, and the real-time transport control protocol, they were specifically designed to stream the media over the network. The latter two, which I have just mentioned, that is real-time transport protocol and the real-time transport control protocol, they are built on the top of UDP. So reliable protocol such as the TCP, that is transmission control protocol, it can also be used for more reliable media streaming. However, this accomplish this with the system of timeouts, retries, and by retransmitting missing data, which makes the entire multimedia streaming system more complex to implement. So it also means that when there is a data loss on the network, media stream may freeze while the protocol handler detects the loss. And client can minimize the effect of this by buffering the data for display. So friends, this is all about the data network, in which we have seen the different types of protocol. We've seen how the routers are used, how the different communication is used, how the data packets are, data is divided or fragmented into a packets, which is this process of fragmentation is called as data segmentation. When the size of your data is exceeding the fixed length of your data, which is to be transmitted on the network. So thanks a lot for listening patiently. I hope you like this video. In the next video, I will talk about the wireless data networks. So what we have seen so far in this video, we have talked about the fixed data network. Thank you so much.